kick it off now, or did you want to give it a few more minutes, Dawn?
I want to go ahead and kick it off. I've just started recording, so everybody has that. And then whether it's Ed or Gil, you just want to introduce yourself. Well, how do you want to do this? Because we can do it however you want.
I'll start it off and then pass it over to Gil. Hi, everyone. I think most of you know me and some of you don't. My name is Ed Ithier, and I helped create the sales program back in 2013 with Professor Anstey and Jim Narrow, who's been also heavily involved. And I know today—
And me.
Yes, I'm sorry. And Dawn, of course. Dawn is always involved in everything. She's involved in too many things. But today we have the great opportunity to talk with Gil Halley from Carousel, NWNCarousel now. Gil has been, and NWN has been a tremendous resource for us. They've been a sponsor for us for over 3 years now. We have a number of our students that have graduated from STU that are working for them, and they have been just true partners. So I think this would be a worthwhile session, especially as we get into the competition. So I'll pass it over to Gil, and Gil, you can add anything that you would like to.
All right. Well, thank you, Eddie. Thanks, Dawn. Jim, great to see you as well. Students, good evening. Gil Halley, one of our two directors of inside sales at NWN Carousel. So if you've met with me or heard about, the relationship between SNU and formerly Carousel Industries, we were recently acquired earlier in 2021 by NWN Corporation to form what's now over $1 billion cloud communications provider, operating really up and down the information technology or IT stack. We support over 6,000 customers nationally and internationally with a suite of offerings ranging from unified communications, contact center, advanced technology, which is all things data center related, cybersecurity, visual collaboration and workspace, as well as a proprietary platform that NWN Carousel has called EMP, Experience Management Platform, which really allows us and the IT organizations that we serve to maintain full visibility into their communications infrastructure, their cybersecurity posturing, the entirety of their network. So it's an extremely exciting sort of wrapper around all of the solutions that we provide through partners that may be a little bit more synonymous in names you've heard of, like Microsoft, Avaya, Cisco, Zoom, a suite of partners that we work with to support ultimately the experiences that we deliver to our end customer. So if you don't mind here, I'll share my screen. And it doesn't hurt the relationship that our former Chief Revenue Officer, Jim Marsh, who's now enjoying retirement, was a SNU alumni. So a true entrepreneur, took a small cabling company, started in 1992, and sold it over 28 years later, and is now enjoying some well-deserved and I'm sure well-funded downtime. So we're extremely happy for Jim and his family. All right, let me share my screen here. Let's see. All right, let me make sure I'm in present mode, slideshow.
Yeah, it worked. I just want to make sure it was going to work. I was like, okay, there we go.
All right, and I tend to not be too slide heavy, folks. So I really would very much encourage crowd participation as we move through this. So my plan is to sort of introduce the case at a high level in support of some of the documentation that I'm sure Dawn, Jim, and the teams have already provided out, and give you a little bit more information on sort of where we're going next here. So the case study at a glance, you received a more in-depth overview on North Coast Realty Partners, which is, again, a mock institution. We never, choose a real organization. This is a mock organization that, like many real estate firms, I don't know if anyone is in the market for a home or I certainly was, luckily before COVID took place, because if you know anything about New England real estate, it was a dramatic spike in line with the start of COVID. There was a large sort of exodus out of large metropolises. People loved a little bit more of that green space, and certainly New England offers that in spades. which I'm sure you can all appreciate as SNU students in beautiful New England. So, a large shift in the real estate market led to a very dramatic, growth in inventory and in price points associated with New England real estate. So North Coast is no different. They've seen a tremendous spike in their business. 6 physical offices that they maintain throughout New England, with their headquarters being in Hartford. 5 of those being facilities that they own, as part of their own real estate portfolio. A 6th, their Hartford headquarters, is a rented space. So certainly that's kind of part of the landscape and part of the overall scenario that this business is seeing themselves in. Maintaining leased or rented space in the time of a global pandemic, and knock on wood, as we see ourselves hopefully continuing to sort of move past this, it's led a lot of organizations, and certainly NWN Carousel additionally, to explore what the future of work is going to look like. And enabling employees and the ability to attract and retain talent as an organization has been deeply rooted, and is going to, I'm sure, continue to be deeply rooted in that organization's ability and willingness to allow their employees to work from anywhere. It's about getting the job done. It's about execution, and not if you're physically sitting in an office shoulder to shoulder with your peers, or you're operating in a remote capacity with the tools enabled to do your job efficiently and effectively. So, so this organization is no different. This is kind of how they're, looking to adapt to the new normal. They have experienced rapid growth, in their list of realtors on staff, from, let's see, I think I have it on my next slide here, but a large growth in their business. Their licensed realtors had doubled from, upper 90s to, I think, 180, and growing up to 200 realtors expected by the end of 2022, supported by a back office staff, which historically had largely been, operating primarily out of one of those physical office locations. But again, as we learned through COVID, if you enable individuals with the right tools, then, physical locale does not make or break sort of job performance and getting the job done. So, COVID, as we saw in many commercial sectors, led to a drastic reduction in office utilization for North Coast. The key card swipe-ins for this organization reduced by 90%, as it related to office attendance given COVID. Steve Barlow, the organization's IT director, is the individual who handles all aspects of the organization's IT and communication systems. Certainly a very challenging job as you manage disparate sort of technology platforms per location. In the case that we've created for you, Steve manages 6 physical locations with disparate, and that term essentially means different phone systems and different sort of communications platforms per location. It demands an extremely sort of large knowledge base, right, in all things IT, to manage different platforms and make sure that they in some capacity work seamlessly and allow those employees to stay connected between offices. But it's an extreme headache as well, and it's something that a lot of organizations, especially organizations that are growing either organically or through acquisitions, needs to manage, right, and to develop sort of that go forward approach to scaling the business in a repeatable and more easily manageable capacity. So end user functionality, has been a substantial pain point for this business. As staff members are operating out of their home offices, they don't have access to those same tools, the same corporate phone system with 4-digit dialing between locations. They don't have access to that video conferencing platform that allows them to communicate professionally to maybe higher end residential clientele that they may be working with to find a new home or sell their existing home. And again, these hardware-based platforms, they create tremendous strains on the IT staff and the end user as it relates to, again, providing that seamless sort of communication experience. So that's what the organization is dealing with.
Can I ask a quick question?
Please.
So in terms of, I guess this director of IT is also overseeing all like information backup, disaster recovery, cyber, and then they're also like deploying new like desktops or whatever, laptops, everything.
Exactly. Right.
Okay.
Right.
Just wanting to make sure.
No, absolutely. No, it's a great call out. Go ahead.
Do they have the same system for at least backup and disaster recovery and those kinds of things?
Yeah, we wanted to keep it. We can assume sort of a more of a cutting edge cloud based backup environment. We wanted to keep it, knowing there's kind of a suite of expertise, and certainly we don't want to really rely on the deep technical knowledge of the students. This is more about leading insightful discovery and making sure we're understanding where this organization wants to go. So we've kept the case more sort of unified communications and collaboration specific in its focus, right? So we'll really be talking about offering an end-to-end collaboration and communications platform for this organization. So you can assume, right? We always have to make sort of careful assumptions in a case study to not lead to too much distraction. We can assume that all else is well squared away from an application performance and cybersecurity standpoint. UC or unified communications and collaboration is the hot button for this organization, given their growth curve. But great question. So what I wanted to sort of call out here, and what Steve and the organization is battling, these on-premises or hardware-based communications platforms and infrastructure, it costs a lot more to manage than just sort of whatever the monthly maintenance contracts may pertain to. There are, again, the annual maintenance contracts, which cover kind of break fix support requirements that may exist, per location, as, hey, the phone system in Trisha's office, the CEO's office went down. Let's deploy, the technician from our service provider to fix that endpoint. That's one set of challenge. But another set of challenges that Steve or any IT director working with a disparate sort of technology platform may experience is a lot of finger pointing, right? When you have the complexity in an IT environment with numerous locations operating on different collaboration or communications technologies, everyone's eager to point the finger, right? So where it may start if there's an outage on a phone or a video conferencing unit is, okay, is the end user comfortable in using this technology? And if a realtor is going to the Boston office and then maybe to the Providence office the next week, do they know how to use that infrastructure per location as appropriate? I'm sorry, did I have a question? Oh, maybe just a mute button there, no worries. So again, a lot of finger pointing exists in this type of landscape. Again, is the end user comfortable in properly utilizing the technology? Okay, we know the end user is comfortable. Now, is the video conferencing unit or hardware, it seems to be operating as it should. Have you checked your firewall policies? This is something that, that IT director may be needing to sort of foster or play this shell game. Okay, the firewall checks out, that it's configured properly. Have you checked with your carrier on any outages that may be impacting that Providence office? Again, that's all adding complexity, and this is very real scenarios that this finger pointing exists for these types of organizations. Hey, it looks like your local network connections and your network speeds appear stable. There's nothing more that we can do on our end, and it just leaves Steve with a world of challenges in making sure that he properly diagnoses these various collaboration or communication platforms from site to site. To add complexity, Steve is retiring, right? So 30 days from now, Steve is exiting the business. He is taking with him a tremendous amount of expertise in managing this very complex, inter-office environment. And it gives our CEO and the rest of the realtors that rely on these technologies tremendous, reason for pause or reason for some pain as it relates to, okay, what is the future going to look like? We have these data technologies. We're losing a critical member of the staff that helps us keep the lights on. And additionally, the business is still growing, right? And how do we support that growth through a seamless, unified communications footprint? So that's ultimately where we're trying to get. So we'll give a few sort of glimpses on the three buyers that you'll see as part of this motion. So first and foremost, our sellers on the line here will talk to Mike Wallace, a realtor friend of you as the seller. He's worked with North Coast for 10 or more years. He's local to that Hartford office, the headquarters. you know, in the past, he certainly loved that office vibe. He's used it for client visits. He's used it to collaborate with the local mortgage loan officers to make sure that, hey, if he, you know, if a client wants to offer 400,000 for, you know, 87 Meadowbrook Road, is this individual well funded to you know, live up to that sort of loan you know, commitment. So he works closely with the local team there, and he uses it to connect with colleagues. You know, he's very concerned when he hears that, you know, the lease is due for expiration and possibly renewal in Hartford. Given the drop in utilization, he's asking the question just the same way as the CEO is it worth it? You know, is it worth it to maintain another physical office that we don't even own, pay $3,500 for an office that is not used to the capacity that it was historically? And, you know, as a follow-up question, can the business continue to operate as efficiently or more efficiently if they continue to enable all of the realtors, mortgage loan officers, and supporting staff to work from home? So again, relies closely on that sort of tight-knit community. He really leverages the internal network that he has. And if this office does go away, he needs to be reassured that he's going to have the right tools in place to continue to do his job as efficiently as he can and serve his customers and his you know, partners in the best ways possible. And additionally, and this is definitely not unique to any sort of realtor or salesperson, they're not tech savvy, right? He wants to join a conference room or you know, call that client and know that he's got the right tools at his disposal to do his job. If he needs to work from home, again, with these sort of disparate phone systems, he's utilizing his cell phone. So he's incurring a personal cost to do his business, right? Where if the organization were in a better place from a collaboration and a single communications tool, he would be able to, you know, experience those benefits without having to rely on his personal cell phone and some of the reception issues that he may or may not have. So those are a few things that as we lead discovery, we're going to want to really understand what Mike utilizes day to day, you know, as he conducts his business, as he meets with external clients, with internal business partners, what he relies on first and foremost to do his job effectively, how the shift to a remote sort of setting in COVID has maybe interrupted his normal flow. And again, with the right communications platforms at his disposal in an ideal future state, what would that deliver to him and how would it allow him to feel comfortable in his ability to do his job well? Any questions on Mike? All right. So next, you know, we'll move to buyer two will be Steve Barlow, our exiting IT director. And again, folks, you know, we'll keep it very, this is not an in-depth bits and bytes based technology conversation. This is really about getting a deeper understanding from Steve through discovery on what his day-to-day has looked like. What his day-to-day has looked like, how he has been leveraged by Tricia as the CEO and the entirety of North Coast to, you know, how's he been enabled and how has he delivered a communications footprint to the business to allow everyone to do their job, and ultimately what type of void is the organization going to need to fill, right, when he resigns 30 days from now? How do they, you know, get the right talent in place to manage those disparate phone systems and video conferencing applications? Or is there maybe a better route for North Coast as a business to get themselves in a little bit more of a future-proofed type of technology footprint to serve the needs of the business while maybe lowering some overhead, you know, associated with, you know, a large budget historically in IT. So he's got, you know, a tremendous skill set, which is very hard to replace, right? These individuals in IT get intimately familiar with the ins and outs and what's working and what's not within that infrastructure. And it is no easy transition for potentially a new IT leader joining the organization to just pick up where Steve left off. It doesn't quite work that easily in most cases. So aside from sort of the current challenges in that footprint, as I mentioned, the company continues to grow. They continue to hire new realtors to serve, you know, the blossoming real estate market in New England. They need a communications platform that is going to grow with them as seamlessly as possible. Additionally, in this sort of antiquated hardware-based technology landscape that North Coast has been operating in, When there's an outage, Steve's getting in his car, right? And if that means there's an outage in Boston and he's in Boston for the morning, and then he's got to shoot back to Hartford to make sure Trisha's board meeting at 4 o'clock in the afternoon goes smoothly, he needs to go there and back within the day. So again, one of the limitations of a premise-based or a hardware-based communications platform is if there's an outage or sort of anything unforeseen, you're physically getting in a car and going site to site to dispatch those services or to solve that challenge. All things that can be alleviated through a partnership with NWN Carousel and what we'll talk about sort of in later slides here. And additionally, right, Steve, as many IT directors or senior IT leaders in their organization in their field, would sort of demand, Steve's getting paid $180,000 annually to do his job. And I'll tell you, folks, that is not an out of realm sort of earnings by any stretch for an IT leader. That's probably even on the low side. So if you've got an interest in a career in IT, and if you've got the aptitude, I would highly recommend it because you can make great money. But a lot of stress comes with it, right? A lot of sleepless nights for Steve managing this aging hardware and the growing needs of the business. So his job has not gotten any easier, and it's only going to get more difficult. All right. So buyer 3, Trisha Mansfield. So she is the Chief Executive Officer of North Coast. She has historically loved sort of the collaborative experience. You know, that's why over time they've been happy to sort of purchase a number of locations in those capital cities throughout New England. First and foremost, she's, you know, realty minded. So she loves sort of managing their own portfolio of physically owned locations. But again, you know, as the shift has occurred from in-person to sort of a hybrid work model, it's definitely got her concerned as a CEO, constantly sort of looking at bottom line profitability and the health of the business. $3,500 a month for an office space that is rented and going to be underutilized is something that gives her tremendous pause, right? Is it worth it to continue with that spend if the business is not, you know, ultimately going in that direction? So, you know, providing the growing North Coast team with the tools, as I mentioned, to do their job efficiently and effectively while feeling connected and delivering bottom line profitability, delivering more real estate sales, doing their jobs efficiently is a top of mind concern. And as I mentioned prior, you know, Trisha has quite a tremendous challenge on her hands with Steve's resignation pending, as well as the need to serve a growing organization, you know, and it's got her questioning, is there a better or more sustainable way to support the needs of the business to provide that seamless growth and scalability that is going to be required from them in years to come, while giving more of a predictable and sustainable IT footprint? And again, overall, she's profitability driven. So she wants to make sure that every move that North Coast makes is in the best interest of the user population overall, in the best interest of North Coast as they serve their clients, and in the best interest of profitability, right? Any questions on Trisha? All right. So we'll get into just a little bit about, you know, NWN Carousel, like as I mentioned, our position in the industry. So we've really moved from what we would have traditionally called a value-added reseller to much more of an organization that enables hybrid work and provides the technologies that enable hybrid collaborative workspaces of the future. So all that we offer as NWN Carousel is very closely aligned in our sales methodology, points us back to making sure that every single technology solution that we offer is rooted in serving the highest level business outcomes of our prospect and our customer partners, right? So is this technology investment allowing our customer to increase revenue and or reduce cost and or improve operational efficiency and or transform the customer experience and or mitigate risk? So as we go around what we call our flywheel here of solution offerings, and we'll certainly be focused primarily on unified communications and the visual collaboration in workspaces, or VCW areas of our portfolio. Every single solution that we sell, if we are leading an accurate and an effective sales motion, with the right buying audience, we should be able to point all of those solutions back to one or more of these core areas and one or more of these highest level business outcomes, right? So as we move through discussion with Mike, our realtor friend, to Steve, and ultimately to Trisha, we need to be continuing to build a case into lead discovery that is going to be rooted in helping the organization to increase revenue, decrease their operating costs, improve the overall operational efficiency of the organization, transform that customer experience, and or mitigate risk. So I'll tell you right now, I guess I'd like to ask for crowd participation if I could. So if you're in an organization where you're experiencing this pretty dramatic shift to a hybrid work model, you've got numerous sort of technology platforms at each location which are extremely difficult and time consuming to manage. Who do you think is impacted by that, who's impacted the most by poor experience? Is it, let me think, this is probably kind of a poorly worded question. Let me reword it. Which one of these stands out to you as the best sort of outcome that we could help North Coast realtors drive towards? As we talk about the challenges that they're facing right now, this antiquated and aging hardware-based sort of model, what to anybody on the line here jumps out as what we can help North Coast achieve from a business outcome standpoint? And there's more than one right answer, I'll tell you that. Anyone want to take a crack at it?
Go ahead, Zalek.
I think transform the customer experience.
It's a great call. It's a great call. So yes, and you can look at that two ways. I'd be curious, when you say transform the customer experience, do you mean North Coast's clients, as a buyer or seller of real estate, or do you mean North Coast's own employees? I'm curious.
I think employees.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's great. I would tell you, honestly, a great, excellent answer. Both answers are correct, right? Because transforming the customer experience, you can really look at this in numerous capacities. So certainly the internal customer experience, right, with a seamless and a unified collaboration communications footprint is absolutely going to transform that internal customer, right? All of the employees that utilize the enterprise phone system and video conferencing or collaboration applications are going to benefit directly from the dramatically increased end user or an enhanced end user experience that NWN Carousel and our hybrid work solutions can offer. And additionally, the end customer, right? So working with NWN Carousel and enabling this sort of hybrid all-in-one collaboration bundle, including calling, web chat, and video conferencing, the type of application that we're on right here, absolutely serves the end customer or their prospective customers as well. Hey, let's take this real estate negotiation to a virtual, as opposed to just getting on, exchanging cell phone calls and, okay, we're negotiating a deal back and forth. Let's bring all parties to a joint sort of negotiating table in a hybrid work environment and in a hybrid application like we're using right now. So absolutely, it's going to transform both the internal customers, aka those realtors at North Coast, as well as their end customers, right? The buyers and sellers of property. It's going to absolutely enhance the professionalism of the organization, and make that end customer feel very well and professionally served as an individual or as a group. So great answer. Additionally, I would call out the operational efficiency. Of course, as we look to dramatically reduce the complexity in this hardware-based collaboration and communications footprint, operational efficiency is one of the first things we think about. If Steve had one unified communications and collaboration posture, would he need to physically travel to Boston if an end user had an issue with their phone set? Would he need to make that day trip or that 2.5-hour trip from Boston to Hartford to make sure that Trisha has the right has what she needs to deliver a professional grade video conference. If all of this took place in a virtual and easily managed through a cloud-based interface environment, then it would lead to tremendous operational efficiency, right? The organization would not have to pay Steve's gas money to get from Hartford to Boston and back again. This can all be done in a virtual world. So operational efficiency, transforming the customer experience, decreasing costs, right? When we're moving away from antiquated premise-based infrastructure into a cloud-based consumption model, it absolutely is offering a decreased and a more predictable cost structure. And then ultimately, if longer term, if the professionalism at North Coast is only enhanced that much more, everyone is that much more efficient at doing their job. Maybe that realtor that, could only do maybe 2 or 3 physical meetings a day, maybe that realtor in a hot market is able to get 10 customer-facing interactions accomplished a day. What is that ultimately going to lead to? And it's increased revenue. I'll give you the answer, right? So I would say with a cutting-edge collaboration, all-in-one collaboration bundle that NWN Carousel can offer, we can really check those top 4 boxes with this solution alone. Great feedback. Thank you.
Can I just add 2 things? Is that okay?
Please. Of course, please.
So what's interesting is everybody who's on this call has gone through this experience of having gone from in-person to remote. And the challenges that folks experienced, whether they couldn't get into a meeting like this, or they had trouble getting something downloaded, or their computer broke and they were stranded. There was no IT help desk because they were not physically on campus. So I think that it's such a cool case because it's not just that our students and whatnot have gone through it, but the whole world really has.
Sure.
So it's completely relevant. And then the other thing I guess I would just say to all the folks on the call is the bullet points that you see there, those are the same things. So whether you go into a sales role, an accounting role, a marketing role, you are going to be focused on one of these or many of these bullet points, because that's really what business is in the business of doing, right? Is
right.
To do one of those things or actually all of those things in one way or another. Different people have different focus areas. So just from a sales perspective, you're not doing anything different than you will when you go into the workplace, even if you're not in a sales role, even if you're in an operational role or marketing role or customer service role, right? And so I'm just trying to tie it into,
Sure.
They don't all have a glimpse of that yet, but what's really cool is that this is an awesome list of the things that you would go in and try to make happen inside a company regardless of role.
Sure. No, that's a great point. And it speaks to, and to Dawn's point, while yeah, every organization would ultimately, through every single decision they make, like to check all of these boxes, that'd be an ideal world. But certainly as you're moving through a sales motion from individual to individual within that organization, there's different, of course, buyer personas, right? So a realtor who's really that feet on the street doing their job, they're selling, they're creating connections between buyers and sellers, they're fostering relationships internally with their mortgage loan officer and externally. We're going to want to structure a conversation with that individual in terms of what they need out of a solution a little bit more differently than a CEO, right? So if you're a realtor, you're going to really jump at the idea of increasing revenue. You don't necessarily now, if you're a good sort of business-minded, well-rounded person, yeah, you may love to see that the organization is decreasing their costs or improving operational efficiency. But I'm telling you right now, as that realtor, what's in it for me is increased revenue, is being able to do their job that much more efficiently. So as I'm talking to Mike, I'm going to really kind of hone in on, hey, how many meetings are you able to get done in a day in a face-to-face setting versus if we were to give you a tool to efficiently do your job and go from meeting to meeting while sitting right here in your office in the comfort of your own home. He's going to jump at anything that sort of allows him to do his job more efficiently and get that much more done in a day. Whereas if you move to Steve, right, he's resigning, but he's well aware of some of the trials and tribulations on managing that complex infrastructure. He's going to want to know all about leaving the organization in great hands to transform the customer experience as he maintains a relationship with Tricia, and certainly improve operational efficiency and mitigate some of the risks, right? The risk associated with aging hardware and what that can mean for the business if there is more of a large scale outage. And then for Tricia, right, as the persona of a chief executive officer, head table, corner office, they're really, I would say all of these, right? I would certainly say all of these: mitigating risk to the business, transforming that customer experience, doing so as efficiently as possible while increasing revenue and decreasing cost, or improving the overall profitability of the business. You can sort of hit all of those high points. Great. Thank you, Dawn. All right. So this is a little bit verbose, so I'll certainly provide the slides to Dawn to distribute as well. But just sort of to touch on a few of the areas that, as NWN Carousel has, aligned itself to the best in breed solutions in sort of the cloud-based unified communication and collaboration space. What we've really looked for, and what we've looked at, and what our customers are working through or dealing with constantly is, kind of runs up to these areas, is again the customer experience. How is, you're going to have a poor experience due to complex or aging technology, and those customers are both the internal customers to the organization, right? The realtors and the mortgage loan officers that suddenly they're operating out of that home office. They don't have access to the same tool set. So that's a big challenge, right? As we evaluate their current unified communications and collaboration posture. Business risk and disruption associated with a unified communications footprint. Do they have unforeseen outages at a certain location with the oldest phone system? Do they have employee churn? Maybe individuals at one office have gotten so frustrated by their lack of ability to seamlessly use that video conferencing application or use that enterprise phone system. Maybe they're going to go to another realtor. Maybe they're going to join another firm with, hey, that's promoting all of the cutting edge tools that they've already enabled for their employees. And, hey, to my point earlier on Mike, if I can do my job that much more efficiently at another organization, I'm not going to stick around for too much longer, right? Because I want to make as much money as I can in this game. Operational efficiency, again, the disparate technologies, the tremendous headache associated with that, and the changing of the guard within IT. That is something that the organization needs to be extremely sort of forward thinking about. How do we put ourselves in a better position where if we decide to replace, Steve as the IT director, that individual has the right tools in their disposal? Or asking the larger question, do we even need to replace Steve if we move towards the right type of all-encompassing collaboration bundle? Can this be managed by a third party like NWN Carousel and allow us to do our jobs just as if Steve were still on site? So I'll provide this, but this just kind of provides a few sort of the hot button topics that are, that unified communications and collaboration strategies revolve around and are trying to solve for as it relates to, like I said, that more forward thinking and cloud-based hybrid work strategy. So again, and I'll provide the slide deck out, but just in a nutshell, and I was thinking, Dawn, maybe in our next session we'll get a little bit more into some of the pricing and the specific technologies behind the scenes. But as it relates to our all-in-one hybrid workforce collaboration strategy and bundles, the solution overall provides a cohesive set of applications for collaboration, including calling, meetings, customer experience, and the endpoints, right? The physical device that you may need in your office to effectively do your job, right? End-to-end design and implementation with full project management and lifecycle management, right? The ability to monitor, manage, and ensure your end users are comfortable utilizing that technology. These are all things that organizations don't need to rely on their internal staff for. Rely on a partner like NWN Carousel with a proven methodology, PMP certified project managers, enabling the type of deployment and management of these applications and this experience all behind the scenes, right? So that North Coast Realty and their realtors and their mortgage officers and their executive staff can do their job and just know darn well that the tools are in place, fully managed by an organization so that they can stay focused on their core business. Flexible delivery models, as I said, again, as we look across physical locations, flexible delivery models means providing the same experience to the individuals in those physical office locations as you would if that individual were on the road or in their home office? Do they have a seamless access to the same set of tools that enable them to do their job, right? Regardless of where they are or how they tend to prefer to operate. You know, as we see here, why is this important? Why is offering this sort of all-in-one comprehensive hybrid work bundle, why is this important? You know, because legacy non-integrated solutions, they're difficult and costly to manage. They require someone with a tremendous knowledge base, as I mentioned, that Steve has, that may be fleeting in the industry, right? Organizations are dramatically moving to these cloud-based applications. Organizations that sort of stay a little bit antiquated in their school of thought are going to be really hard pressed to find the talent that they need to maintain and continue to keep the lights on, as Steve has been doing. So what we as NWN Carousel really strive to offer is an enablement of that distributed hybrid workforce, right? To collaborate seamlessly as they would wherever they are. Standardized, secured, and streamlined solutions, improved overall business continuity, right? Not needing those end users, those road warriors, not needing to rely on them to, you know, utilize their cell phone. Hey, can they use a soft client for Microsoft Teams or for Avaya Cloud Office right here from their physical device, and still be able to dial 4-digit from their cell phone to their mortgage loan officer as they're on the road. And again, aligned to those highest level positive business outcomes. With all of these sort of considerations in mind, how is this unified communications and collaboration bundle going to help North Coast deliver increased revenue, reduce cost, improve customer experience, and transform the customer experience, improve operational efficiency, and or mitigate risk? So all of those things are in mind with all of the offerings that NWN Carousel has carefully crafted and deployed for over 6,000 customers. All right. And
would you tell them what
any-
an evergreen approach is? They may not know what that is. What is an evergreen approach?
Evergreen approach, key benefits.
Under the key benefits.
I'm going to be honest with you. I'll fall on my sword. I'm not sure what that means.
Okay.
I think that's automatic renewal.
You think that's automatically what?
Automatic renewal. So it's a subscription. The contract doesn't end, so you never have to worry about your service going away.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Meaning it just continues, correct?
Right.
That's right. Yeah, that's interesting. I'm trying to think if I've ever heard that in a, like, you know, I've heard of auto renewals, right? Or no sort of end to the subscription. You're in it until you opt out. Think about your Netflix, right? If you don't, you know, that Netflix subscription is coming out of your pocket until you sort of turn the service off. So, but of course there's benefits to an end customer, right? The service is there while you need it and when you need it. And of course, call us if anything changes, if you need to reduce the amount of licenses or increase the amount of licenses. So thank you, Jim. Yeah, good call.
Well, it's like an evergreen tree. So
right.
Okay, that's really interesting. I didn't know that.
I actually had a quick question, just a clarification for me. And I come out of the telecom industry, so this may sound a little strange. I'm assuming that all of the services we're talking about presuppose internet connectivity.
Correct.
And you guys don't do that piece of it.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. No. So yes, that would absolutely be part of the seamless experience that we would be able to offer, is working with the carrier, right? So NWN Carousel has a tremendous carrier services practice operating as an extension, and it can be included in the monthly payment, that all-in-one sort of office in a bundle type of landscape. So for those physical offices that, to Jim's point, would require a Comcast or an AT&T to deliver service to that facility, that can all be managed through Carousel. That, you know, if there is a carrier outage, the first call would be handled by NWN Carousel. Again, sort of taking the load of dealing with waiting on hold. You're in your number 17 in queue. There's a known outage for AT&T in Hartford, Connecticut. We wait in the queue for that, right? So that's all part of that sort of white glove experience that we offer. So great call out, and that would be sort of included in the bundle relative to these 5 offices.
And I think a lot of students don't have the experience of working in an office where there are actually physical phone systems that you have to punch down the numbers and all that stuff. And so, you know, that's the one thing I will make clear with my students, is that, you know, there are physical phone systems that are now legacy systems that you want to use the voice over IP services instead.
Exactly. Exactly.
All right.
Right,
thanks.
well, and also being remote, if you've got a call, I mean, it's real estate, right? So you don't always know everyone who's calling in. How does that call get routed to the next salesperson? How do they get those kinds of leads? If
Right.
there isn't an automatic transfer, it's great to have a cell phone, but that's not connected to anything that's coming in through any 1-800 numbers or company numbers or any of that stuff.
Exactly. Exactly. So
Um,
it's not trackable at a higher level. You know,
Yep.
the organization doesn't have the same level of insight if those individuals are sort of operating on a silo, as they would call it, you know, within their own technology footprint, as opposed to utilizing the more unified tools in place.
So this is like having a remote help desk that's actually going to take care of these things in many ways. Not just, that's not the only thing, but it's definitely one of the
Absolutely.
features. And then it's cloud-based, correct? Or
Yep.
Yep. Okay.
Yep, and it
And
can
then
be deployed sort of in a hybrid model. So we'll get into, like I said, I'll outline some of the sort of the pricing schema, you know, as it would relate to sort of these a la carte types of solutions. But again, we would be sort of promoting an all-in-one bundle at a competitive per user price point, right? So the business, as the business scales, you don't need to grow dramatically because you know you're tied to a physical footprint, right? Oh my gosh, I need to add one more user. Okay, so I need to buy a whole new switch to support that one more user because my current infrastructure is at capacity. That's the benefit of a cloud-based model, right? One more user, it's one more license. It's just
Right.
that fixed per user cost the business can predict, and they can, you know, scale efficiently and effectively in a very cost competitive consumption model.
And so one other thing, and these guys haven't experienced this yet, but I've worked with grads that graduated at various points throughout the pandemic, where their companies were not necessarily prepared to bring them on remotely. And sometimes the computer got there and sometimes it didn't.
Sure.
And sometimes they had a phone number. And I mean, really not awesome experiences, and especially in the early days. I think it's gotten a lot better, but some of them were just horrible. So onboarding is important from a retention perspective and keeping people and how well you integrate. You mentioned they were growing. Are you able to share about how many employees and what their growth in that number is, just to give a scope for how many of these things we're talking about?
So let me see here.
That would have been a good question for them to ask you in discovery, right? But
Exactly. So, darn it, I'm gonna have to exit my share mode here for a moment.
and if I'm taking you off, don't let me do
No,
that.
no, that's fine. No, so there was, let me see, and I know I give you a kind of floating number. So they had 80 realtors at the start of 2019. It doubled to 160 as of January of 2022. So January of this year achieved a double at 160 realtors. Expected to reach 200 by next January, by January of 2023. So right around a 250 employee staff, including their 40 mortgage loan officers and various back office individuals.
Which is
right?
a lot of
So-
people with no director of IT and nothing set up to
Exactly.
go forward,
Exactly.
right?
Yep.
Pain points,
Yep.
pain points.
Exactly. All right. So, okay. So it looks like I am still sharing. So this is actually my last slide for today. But let me see here. But yeah, one important sort of point to note about, you know, working with a partner like NWNCarousel and why so many, you know, large organizations with mission critical types of communications postures and applications look to us is that we've done it before, right? And certainly offering proof points is what we call them to our prospective and our current customers that speak to our work and speak to our success operating in the type of mission critical environments that they may work in. Healthcare, for instance, financial services. You need to know that your business partners have done this before, right? That this isn't their first go around, right? So working with over 6,000 customers with a vastly different sets of business and technology requirements certainly is a tremendous pedigree, but we like to go a step further and offer one or a few what we'd call proof points as a part of that sales motion. So one that I would say, you know, specific to or sort of speaking to the type of value that we're looking to deliver for North Coast would be, hey, don't just take our word for it. Look at a similar customer that we worked with, Landmark. You know, we helped them with their unified communication strategy. They had over 6 disparate phone systems, right, as we're sort of seeing here in North Coast, supporting their corporate offices and branches. Now, this organization has a little bit larger scale. They've got 150 branch locations, but it still speaks to the overhead caused by having that many disparate systems, right? You're dealing with disparate maintenance contracts per location. Steve is fostering and sort of shepherding all of those experiences right now, and Steve is about to exit the business, right? So who is going to pick up the pieces there? NWN Carousel provide for this business a hosted calling platform for over 150 branch locations, right? So we can certainly handle North Coast with 6 offices and possibly growing to that hybrid landscape. They used a hosted calling platform and NWN Carousel's experience management platform to manage the solution as well as provide key analytics. So again, we'll get in a little bit more into EMP next week, but that would speak to this organization's ability to look at their infrastructure and their applications through sort of a single pane of glass, so that whether it be Tricia or whoever was going to sort of maybe claim internal ownership of managing the NWN Carousel relationship, they could look office by office and application by application and see exactly how things are performing. And if there's an outage happening, be proactive in engaging their NWN Carousel account team to, like I said, proactively mitigate the impact of that outage. So we like to let a lot of our references and current customers do some of the talking for us, right? It really speaks volumes to not just hear from a sales professional, someone that, of course, is eager to tout the company line, right? It's very impactful, and I'd say more impactful for prospective customers to hear from their peers in the industry. Hey, don't take our word for it. Look at some similar successes we've had with organizations with similar sort of complexity in their environment. Here's how we alleviated those pain points and put them in a way better position for sustained long-term growth and success. So this is one of many examples I could cite, and I would urge you folks to poke around the NWN Carousel website. You'll see a lot of testaments to success we've had with similar types of organizations. And those are very powerful. So anytime you could sort of insert those into your selling motion, I can say they go tremendous. They speak volumes. So that's what I had for today. Like I said, for next session, we'll plan to get a little bit more into the specifics of the solution, some of the financials associated with what deploying a hybrid collaboration suite like this would look like. But what questions do you folks have for me at this point in time?
You did a great job on this. And I know that there's a bunch of questions that are coming, but I just want to say thank you, because you really have done a nice job, providing them with some additional education, because a lot of them are brand new at this. So
Sure.
This will be their first time trying this out. And they're in a marketing 270 class or some other place, right? So you actually showing why it's good to know who else you've helped, because it actually adds to not only credibility, but helps the client see, those kinds of things, and just the very clear and easy way I think you've delivered this information. I just wanted to say kudos on that.
No, thank you very much.
And I know Jim's got a question he's burning to ask, and then I'll let the students jump in.
I actually got to jump off. I have a student conference call in 2 minutes.
Well, good luck, Jim. Great to see you.
Thanks, Gil.
I got
Great
to
to
drop
see you
off
as
in a
well.
few minutes myself because I got another meeting.
All right. Hey, burning the midnight oil. I love it.
Ed is always burning the midnight oil. Any students have questions before we run out of time with everybody? What would you want to ask? The cool part is you're here. There's a lot of times you won't ask the questions that need to be asked, right? And really that's what the beauty of doing some of this training up front is. You don't have to guess, you can ask.
Sure.
So do any students have questions?
Must be that thorough. They must know.
Yeah, and I'll chime in quickly and just say one thing I would urge you folks as you're, moving through this sales motion and speaking with one buyer and then the next, every time that you can sort of reference some of the prior talking points, you're looking to build a case right over time and express that you have heard loud and clear what some of those common pain points are at the end user level with Mike as a realtor, feet on the street, what's he facing every day, how's his job changed given a hybrid work landscape, how has it impacted his ability to serve his customers as efficiently, as effectively as he'd like to, and what would an ideal future state look like for him, right? So what's going on in the business now? What are some of the pain points relative to that experience for that individual? where would they ultimately love to be, right? If budget weren't an issue, if it wasn't their decision to make, they just got to reap the benefits, what would that desired future state look like, and what would they achieve, right? So if you can frame those types of, or you know, ask questions through the sales process to all three of these individuals, you'll build a very sound case, right, for Trisha to ultimately sort of pull the trigger and make an investment in a hybrid collaboration solution.
Right. And I think that the other thing you haven't said, but that should be really apparent, but maybe isn't, is no one's in here, NWN Carousel or any company, they're not looking to just sell something just to make a sale. They're actually finding all these pain points and problems and challenges and saying, hey, we can actually help you do this better so you can be more profitable, have more revenue, better utilize your resources, whatever those things are. And actually, that's the way we teach sales. It's not about selling to sell. It's about you're building an understanding of your client and finding that problem and helping them solve those pain points so you can help them do what they do better.
Right.
And that's true of customer service. That's true of sales. That's true of marketing. That's true of BDR, right? There's just, I think that it's just wrong to approach sales just to make a sale, right? Because that's a one-time thing. You're not keeping anybody. It's not car sales here, or I don't know.
It's a solution selling at its best in terms of how it's laid out, in terms of solving a business need. And I think sometimes customers don't think they need a particular product or service because everything is going well. It's not always the pain point is there, and you have to, as you go through this process, you will learn to be able to help customers identify areas where maybe they can improve their business. And when you be able to have those type of discussions, you then really gain value and trust.
That's it. That's it.
That's exactly right. And you have to listen, right? There's that listening skill. It's going to be critical.
Take care, everybody. Gil, thank you so much.
No, thank you, Ed. Great to see you. Talk soon.
Yes.
I'll talk to you later.
Right.
Bye-bye.
We'll see you later, Ed. Anybody have any quick questions before we let Gil go on to the rest of his good evening after he's given us his time? Going once, going twice.
No, and yeah, please, folks, come with any questions next time. If something's ruminating in your mind, like I said, Dawn, I'll be eager for any additional feedback that we can help make sure the students are firing on all cylinders for go time for competition day. So
that sounds good. Well, they're all going to get debriefed this week and into early next week, so this should be good. And then we'll see you again next Wednesday.
Wonderful.
At 5, so everybody can write that down. And I'm really excited that folks have the opportunity to attend. And looking forward to having you all compete and seeing you again next week.
All right. Well, thank you all. Have a great night.
You have a great night too. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Happy to do it.
Thank you.